الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, and welcome to Islamic OASIS Live. As always, brothers and sisters, we are trying every way possible to try to discuss the issues that really affect the Muslim Ummah, the Muslim communities in general, whether they're here or abroad. And of course, here we're having our own issues concerning, even the identity of our Muslim youth, the identity of the community in general. There are discussions that are taking place that will bewilder the minds, subhanallah. But today, we are going to discuss an issue or a topic that is concerning to every single parent. At least it should be concerning to every single parent, and that is the education of the coming generation, or educating the coming generation or the next generation. Who will be responsible? Who is responsible for that? Is it public schools? Is it private schools? Is it homeschooling? What's happening? And why is it that our parents and us as Muslims are so concerned about even having our children in public or private schools? Why is it that we see a huge trend that a lot of the parents are now thinking to educate their children themselves? But what are the consequences of that? All of these things, inshallah, that concerns all of us. And to discuss these matters, we have two distinct activists, teachers, scientists, people in the fields. So we have Dr. Ashraf Nusairat, PhD in computer science, director of Noon Academy, also khatib, and also obviously an Islamic activist across the Muslim, across the Chicagoland area. You might have seen him giving khutab in many different masajid in Chicagoland area. And second, we have our sister Sarah Muhammad. She came to Islam 16 years ago, who's an educator, who has a degree in education. She has taught both in public schools and private schools, and also does homeschooling for her own children. Inshallah, to discuss this topic, we welcome both of you to the show.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Sister Sarah and Dr. Ashraf. Let's start the discussion with Sister Sarah. You are, obviously you're a parent, you're also a teacher. You do a lot of teaching. Well, you have decided to homeschool, at least for the information that I have. So why is that a concern, sister? And why did you choose that route while you are in United States, where people come to this country to educate and to be educated, and then you're saying, no, I'm going to reject all of that and I'm going to teach the children what? That's the question here.
Yeah, so at the time, my oldest, alhamdulillah, is almost 15. So when she was getting ready to enter kindergarten, she actually went to preschool, and she came home one day and before this time, I mean, we were thinking of homeschooling just because of some other things that I noticed when working in schools. But but what really solidified it for us is she came home. She was in a preschool that was, highly ranked preschool, and she's like, "Mom, don't you know two men can get married?" And we were like, "What?" Like like where did you hear that at? Like, who told you that? Because, we were pretty particular about the kind of things that they watched on TV and that they listened to, and we obviously did not talk like that at home. And she had said, "Oh, my teacher told me that." And then she was like 4.5 years old, and she didn't understand why we didn't, believe in something like that, So that really, solidified for me and my husband that, what, if they're starting, these kinds of conversations, and that's besides all the other things like teaching them evolution, the boyfriend, girlfriend type of thing that goes on, even in, kindergarten, first grade, that we were concerned about as well. But that really solidified it for us, where we were like, okay, we need to make sure our kids have a very firm, foundation and understanding of Islam and our aqidah. What is our belief, and how do we present Islam, so to speak, outside, when we're surrounded by, so many things that are the antithesis to what we believe. So that is why we decided to homeschool, 10 plus years ago.
Dr. Ashraf, you heard the answer here. What's the concern here? Is it, okay, dating used to happened for years and years and years. It's not like we didn't know when we came to this country, at least for me and you. But now, is it homosexuality that's the final nail in the coffin, or is it more than that? What's causing the parents to hesitate so much in trying to get their children educated?
Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. Jazakallah al-khair for hosting me here, inshallah. I think the concern is, as it says, when it gets home, it gets hard. So when these issues are getting home now to the identity of our children, identity in terms of not just whether their Islamic belief, whether from how they act, it's now about how they look. It's about whether they are a man or a male or a female, how they're acting. That's inside the house. That has a complete impact on the parents. So yes, when it hits home, it becomes very hard, and we have to go and deal with it. I'll give you an example. Students in the high school, there is a consumer ed class. And you know what they teach in the consumer ed? They teach in the consumer ed stock market and know how the whole capitalism works. And they will be giving the students, accounts and have them practice with the trades and stuff like that. Okay, from an Islamic perspective, yes, that might create a different discussion. The stock market is not allowed. Capitalist stock market is not allowed. So they've been teaching us, we the Muslims, things that we, from an Islamic perspective, put it to the Shara, this is haram. But we did not talk about it. We did not address it. We did not pay attention to it. Because why? Because it has to do with the current way of life of a capitalist system, with doing business, stock trade, making money, all of that. So, okay, we'll let it go as Muslims.
We came to a capitalist country, Dr. Ashraf. We didn't come to an Islamic state here.
Absolutely. It's the concept is this something halal or haram? And we have to go to the basics, which is me as a father. What's my responsibility? كلكم راع وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته. Every one of you is responsible, and he will be asked about his responsibility. So this is a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is how me as a Muslim should be looking at it. I should be looking at it from the perspective of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when He says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا وقودها الناس والحجارة. Oh, the believers, protect yourself and your family from a hellfire. Its fuel is people and stones. So it's a protection. It's a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I have to take care of that family and raise them. And part of it is to see what kind of education they get. As a Muslim, if I'm not paying attention to other stuff that was happening, that was taught to them, haram, which is consumer ed, stocks. The second, during the other classes, they will be teaching them about sexuality, about evolution. They were teaching that, all of that. If I am as a parent, I don't go and correct this information when my child learns it, then when it comes to the issue of talking about homosexuality, it becomes an issue for me. What am I telling my kids? What am I telling myself even? Some other haram, I don't care about it. But when it comes to this haram, I have to care about it.
No, but here's the thing. I'll come back to you. I'll come back. This is it's going to be a hard discussion here. But here's the thing. Sister Sarah, look, we send our children to mixed schools. I mean, it's not like we didn't know how mixed these things are. We sent our children, they go and they join gym classes and they're playing basketball or whatever it is with girls. I went through high school here. I went to junior high here. I went to university, college, whatever it is. But you, do you see a double standard? Meaning that when the Muslims came here, or what we are facing today, did you not think that we are going to face this? Did you not? Were we so naive, or is it? I know the Dr. Ashraf saying, look, it's hitting home now. But did we not think that this is going to hit home? I mean, are we that naive?
I don't know, about Muslims. I mean, I'm from here, so I grew up in this society. This was normal to me. But, one thing that, secular, liberal, system that we live under is that it normalizes these things, and it normalizes things like, homosexuality or, free mixing, drinking, partying, not obeying your parents. I mean, these things are cool. These things are shown like on Disney Channel, to small kids. And so I think that and I can't speak for people that came, that immigrated here. I don't know what their thinking process was, or if they were naive. But, I think they thought, it's not going to affect us because, we're Muslim and these, we just don't do these things. But they didn't realize the effect that the greater society has, over their children and then over themselves, that their children would be influenced by, these things that eventually these things would hit home. And also too, I mean, hitting back to what Brother Dr. Ashraf was saying, about how we, the kids are being taught things like stock market, or evolution, and we just kind of, ignored it. We didn't say anything about it because I think as parents, we sometimes don't look at things about, halal and haram. Maybe we don't understand it ourselves, or I'm not sure. Maybe we just don't understand that, that something like stocks are haram, so we don't, or riba or something, like that. So we don't
Sister,
know.
Do you think is it more of a culture shock, or is it halal haram?
No, I think that maybe it's a bit of both. I don't know. I think that sometimes we, because of the system we lived under, capitalism is about benefit, right? You look at what benefits you. And perhaps that's what, like they don't see it like as, okay, this is haram. So we have to step in and say something. There's a lot of things that are going on. I think also to Muslim parents, especially immigrant parents, they don't want to stick out. They didn't want to stick out by going to the school and making a complaint or saying, oh, this is haram. It's like, okay, well, we can just ignore it. We can just accept it. Again, I don't want to, speak for people. I don't have that experience, but that's what I feel like, maybe that's what they were feeling when they came here and they put their kids in school here. They did that because they wanted their children to, to succeed in life. which they could not do back home. So I think maybe coming here and standing up against the system was something that, was maybe too much for them to handle. Even today, it's too much, I think, for Muslims. Even if they do have that understanding, they don't want to stick out. They don't want to stand out. They don't want their kids to be bullied. So they just kind of go with the flow.
So, Dr. Ashraf, I mean, so it's normalizing. It's maybe it's a bit of both naivety and cultural shock. But sure, it could be that kids are being taught stock market and capitalism without even knowing. For a lot of parents, that's probably just like, hey, this is how money works. But is it that now the son is coming and saying, my name is Fatima? I mean, what's the shock here? I mean,
what's the shock? So the shock
because
is,
here's the thing. I'm going to rephrase this thing. Mm-hmm. Everything that you've mentioned was happening for the last 20 years, 30 years, since the day we came here. All of this is normal. Mm-hmm. But it seems that now there is there's more the effort being made to teach our children, to kind of take them away from these, private, public, whatever it is. What is it that are Muslims worried that their children are questioning Islam itself?
It's not about questioning Islam itself. It's actually about the parents coming and looking at their children now. Okay, my son is becoming a girl. My daughter is becoming a boy.
No, but that's the question here. Why is that happening, Sheikh? I mean, look, we understand that, but are their children are questioning Islam? Obviously, that's the reason he's coming home and saying, my name is Fatima, although he's a male.
So the root cause of it is the lack of understanding of Islam by the young children, which is a responsibility of parents, because a young man or a young girl will understand what's his role in life and what constitutes a male and what constitutes a female from a halal and haram perspective. And he knows that changing gender or acting like the other gender in Islam is not allowed. This is knowledge. This is an Islamic knowledge that should have been taught at a younger age. If that information and knowledge is not part of the personality of that young child or girl, he will act according to what he has learned in school. As the sister mentioned, at the age of 4 years old, 5 years old, they tell them, okay, a boy can be a girl and a girl can be a boy. Okay, if the parents do not go and clean up that and put the correct ideas and concepts in the minds of the children at this young age, this becomes normal to the children. So yeah, it's normal. I've been taught this since I was 4 years old. Now I'm 16, 17, 18 years old. I feel like I am a woman. So that's okay. No one told me that this is wrong. No one told me that this is haram. No one told me. I don't have a halal and haram concept. So why not to be like others? It's okay. See, that it's a normalization over time. And it's not happening just, you come to someone who has been educated about Islam, knows halal and haram, and at the age of 16, 17, mashallah, he has a very strong understanding of Islam, and you tell him, okay, becoming, being part of LGBTQ plus or supporting it is okay, and you should be doing it. He will turn his face, or his response will going to be totally different. Because he was built correctly. But someone who was not built correctly was built that anything that's given by the system and the school must be the correct thing. Isn't it the United States education system the best education system that we know as immigrants in this country? We came here for PhD, for this, for that, because this country has the best education. So then, if I don't follow up with my kids based on the information that they get in the school, which has to do with identity, not in secular fields, not in math and science and physics and chemistry and all of that. No, things that has to do with the identity, with basic concepts about life. If I don't follow up with that, then what's going to happen? Vacuum. The education system is going to fill that. And the students will, and our kids will be confused. And if an idea comes like this and is accepted and pushed now by the system, and it's now pushed by the system, they will say, okay, yeah, that's how people are, everyone is acting, so it must be acceptable. And that's why they're falling into this.
Okay, I'm gonna come back to that also. But
Okay.
Sister Sarah, here's the thing: you are homeschooling your children.
Right.
I have done the same thing too, but and I have at least I understand why. But here's the thing: we as parents have the qualifications too. We have the resources, and we may have the ability. I was talking to Dr. Abu Talha the other day regarding this issue, and he said at least you guys can do homeschooling. It's illegal to do homeschooling back home in the Arab world. We don't even have that choice. Now, here's the thing. What do parents do who don't have the ability, who don't have the qualifications? Let's start even with the United States itself. They may not have even the money. They have to be working. They don't have a choice. Kids they don't have a choice but to send them to public schools. And not only that, on the top of that, there's issues as far as even their own understanding of the deen.
Yeah, subhanAllah. Yeah. So I think, the thing that we all should understand now is that whether you homeschool or you put your child in Islamic school or you put your child in public school, none of these this is not a solution, to our kids becoming secularized, to our kids adopting these ideas that are, against our belief, that are haram. These aren't even short-term solutions. This isn't a solution like if you choose homeschool or Islamic school, it's basically just like staving off the inevitable, and that our generation.
I'm not even saying Islamic school.
Yeah.
I'm saying here in this case, I'm talking about Islamic school is a whole different ballgame. And I'm going to ask, I know Dr. Ashraf is very, obviously he's running it, so he understands how it works. But I removed my daughter from Islamic school. I said, that can't happen. And sisters or teachers coming to school, wearing a hijab in the school and leaving the school, removing the hijab. It's a job. There is no Islam, there was no concepts. And it was worse, it was more hypocritical than sending them to a public school. So the Islamic school is a whole, that's a discussion we'll have. But what do we do to parents who don't have the ability? What resources can they have to save their children from this mess?
Well, that's what I wanted to say, is that these are not solutions. Like, we cannot save our kids, by choosing these when we're living in a secular, liberal society, because they will be affected no matter what, whether you keep them at home, whether you send them up to public school or not. And that is, and so we as parents, we have to, from the time they are young, we have to, and this, even if you're not a parent right now, start learning the deen, start taking it serious. Go to reputable scholars, not celebrity scholars, not Facebook scholars, but reputable scholars that really know and understand the haqq. Because we have to understand it ourselves. We have to understand Islam. We have to understand what our aqidah is, what our belief is, and we have to understand that, so when our kids are faced with all of these issues, not just LGBTQ. LGBTQ is just one problem that has, recently, I feel like, been thrown in our face because now it's in our education system. Before it was in movies or music and we could kind of ignore it, whatever. But now it's like in our face everywhere we go. So, we have to understand that for us as parents, once we are convinced that Islam is the supreme, Islam has a system that should be implemented, the same system that our Prophet ﷺ, implemented in Medina, and that this is our ultimate solution. So we need to understand that first. And then, After that, we have to have the strength. Once we've been convinced of this, we as parents need to have the strength to speak out against, these practices that we see in our society, whether it be LGBTQ, alcohol, bars, pornography, all of those things, evolution, feminism, equality, all of these things. All of these things have wreaked havoc on society, first of all, both Muslims and non-Muslims. So we understand we have the haqq. So we have to have the strength to present that haqq, to teach it to our kids, so that when they go out in society and they're faced with these things, they have the the courage, they have the ability to say, no, that's wrong, and this is what's right, and this is right because it came from our Creator. So it starts from us as the parents, and from the time they're small, we have to be teaching them these things, to stand up for the deen, not to stand back, not to be shy, not to be afraid, not to be scared that somebody might call you a name or anything like that. No, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Sahaba, they were called names when they were presenting Islam, in the pagan society.
Dr. Ashraf, you're running the Noon Academy. I've heard a lot of good about it. But can academies like this, can they really produce Sahaba-like personalities? What produces what kind of work really needs to be done to produce the kind of personalities that we are looking for?
Good question. Noon Academy is just a one day. It's a weekend school for one day. So it's 4 hours, 5 hours. We have Muslim students teaching Quran, Arabic, and Islamic studies every Saturday, 4 or 5 hours. When you're talking about building concepts and the future generation of Muslims who are proud of their identity, 4 or 5 hours in an Islamic environment out of the 7 days multiplied by 24 hours is not enough. Is nothing. You try to go and create an environment where Muslim students can know and get friends around them who are Muslims, and try to go and create an interest among them, so they will create a friendship and then build Islam in them and the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in them. But if that's not supported by the family, not supported by the society, it's a huge challenge. And the supported by the family is very important, because all of these students, they go home. There is a father and there is a mother at home. There is someone at home. And that someone, which is commenting on also on your previous question to Sister Sarah, that someone needs to know that it is his responsibility. These kids are his responsibility. The way that it's his responsibility to go and work and bring food to the table, also it's his responsibility to go and educate them the correct education, the right education, to build their personality the correct way according to Islam. That's a responsibility. He needs to put time for it the way that he puts time for going to work and bringing food to the table. If that idea is not realized by the parents, that I need to put time for my kids, I need to be close to my kids so I can filter all that, let me call it garbage, that comes into their mind from school and society. If I'm not filtering that, then I'm not doing my correct responsibility.
But
I'm
here's
fulfilling
the thing,
part of it.
Dr. Ashraf, here's the thing. I mean, as I said, I also grew up here. But my parents, yes, they did what they could, and maybe coming from back home had some type of effects on what we saw and what we knew of Islam already. But it wasn't, yes, there was a strong Islamic culture at home. Yes, that was there.
Okay.
But the Islam that I really understood and I learned was done by Islamic movements around where I was. I mean, literally, I grew up learning.
Sure, it's a movement.
I get, but see, is that missing today? Because, for instance, I mean, I had, 14 years old. Somebody comes and talks to me and says, look, Islam is this way, this way, this way. It wasn't in school. It wasn't my Islamic even teacher who was teaching me, let's say, Quran and things like that. My parents, especially coming to this country, they were very, they were always worried about what is allowed, what's not allowed in this country. But I guess what I'm saying is, even at the time of the Prophet ﷺ in Mecca, in a Jahili society like Mecca, that in many ways was like ours today, maybe a little better, but there was, Rasul ﷺ started something which gathered the youth, not just the youth, but also people who were looking at this society in such a way that they said this cannot work for humanity. And they gathered around him in that way. What are we missing today, Sheikh? I mean, we are opening up these schools, we are opening up masajid after masajid, we are opening up, but we are not getting the quality that we need, or we want even.
True, because the objective of these madaris, the objective of these schools is different than the objective of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Mecca. The objective that the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came in Mecca was to go and establish and implement the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the Rabb.
Give them a purpose.
There is a purpose. There is a purpose. The Rabb is the legislator. You need to live according to the rules and the commands of the Rabb. And in order to do that, you need to go and have authority over a certain land and start implementing these rules that come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That was the goal of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
That's true, but that's Medina. I'm saying even in Mecca itself, the youth that are growing up around him are different than the regular people who are in Mecca.
Absolutely, because those youths, when the Quran was revealed at that time and was triggering in their mind, when the Quran comes and asks why the baby girl has been buried alive. Question. Riba. Riba. Mistreatments. All of this. The Quran was talking about things that are wrong in the society. The societal things that are wrong, was addressing them and opening the minds of people to say, okay, to realize that this is wrong. It has to be changed. This is wrong. This has to be changed. And now, did everyone join the Prophet ﷺ in this effort? No. Small number. And that's always the change. When you are changing, it's a small number who will be joining you in the change. And the lives of the Prophet ﷺ, the prophets in general, shows that for a change, it's a small number of people who will be convinced with this idea, and that has to be changed. A society, there are a lot of issues that are wrong in the society time of Mecca, the same way that we have today. There are a lot of things. But will every Muslim here will be accepting the idea that I have to go and change this society in order to implement the rule of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the betterment of all humanity? Not all. The ones who understand it correctly are the ones who are going to go and join. And those are the ones who will understand the reality, they will understand how to change it, and they will know that the current education system, whether it's in the Muslim land or here, the Islamic education system, or the schools, or the weekend schools, they are not there to go and implement rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are there to go and maintain a little bit of knowledge of Islam among the young generation, get them so they stay Muslims. It's not about producing Umar bin Khattab. It's not about, because Umar bin Khattab has a goal of going and changing a whole society.
But Sister Sarah, was Umar bin Khattab homeschooled?
Probably not. They probably they didn't have.
Don't get me wrong, but I'm asking that because of course there's that question that are we shielding our children from realities, and then all of a sudden we put them out there, and I don't believe that, and it depends on the parents too. Right. But there is that question, right? That Umar ibn Khattab was not homeschooled. And neither was Ali radiallahu anh. You know what I'm saying here? I mean, what's missing here? Look, even in homeschooling, what is the purpose of homeschooling?
I think in in the society that we're living in now, the purpose of homeschooling, at least for me, and I think some, other Muslims and even other, religious, Christians and things, is that you are trying your best to protect your kids from these things, these ills of society. But also, you're trying to give them that foundation, of what your belief is. And that's, which you can't really do, when you're competing with, a teacher at school, who, I can give you an example. I had a high school student who came, and she, we were talking about the Islamic political system, and she was like, well, there used to be an Islamic political system, but they went and committed genocide against, Christians. And I said that, where did you hear that from? She's like, oh, my teacher told me that at school. And then I was trying to have a discussion with her, and this is despite the fact that, like, I do have an education background, just like her teacher and everything, but she did not want to believe me. She said, you're only saying that because you're biased. This is a Muslim student. So when they're at school and they're having these conversations, I don't know what her background is with her parents and all of those things, but she was a hijab wearing girl, a abaya wearing, young Muslimah. But, she just thought I was lying. Like I was brainwashed to believe that the Muslims didn't commit, a horrific genocide against Christians because they hated Christians, under the Islamic ruling system, subhanAllah. This is what she was learning at public school. And so, sorry, I kind of went off topic, but that was,
but because here's the thing, Dr. Ashraf. Here's the thing. For what Dr. Sister Sarah said, okay, that's a question. Somebody puts out a question like that. The Muslims committed genocide. I mean, we understand, but that's an opportunity to actually go back and learn, because now somebody put a question in my head. Obviously, Sister Sarah, being a teacher, being a mother, you're answering that, Sister Sarah. I understand that. But your children are not exposed to that kind of argument. So that your children can go look up and come back and say all of that was nonsense. Is that missing, Dr. Ashraf? I mean, would that be a problem? Because again, that's what I'm saying. See, look, it's her arguing for her children.
Yeah, that's something that's missing, because these are skills that you need to build it with the Muslim students from a young age. That, okay, what's the source of taking information? This information, especially when you look at history. The history, and we know that, okay, for in Islam, history will be documented as events. The event. The author will not go and put his own interpretation of that event. This is how you go and read history, and the correct way of history. And this is how you have the Islamic history has been written. But when your enemy comes and writes your history, and then your enemy is the one who comes and start education and teaching your kids, the Muslim kids, about their history, and he puts it in his own perspective, and you don't have the filter at home. That's important. The filter at home, and you don't have the filter in the Muslim community that goes and talks about all of that and addresses, this is wrong, this is not right, from an earlier age. Hey, there is this curriculum that you are reading, which is the history, the American history, the Islamic history, the European history, the conflicts in the Middle East and all that stuff. It's written from the perspective of an enemy of Islam. He's not going to be just to it. He's not going to give justice. We know this, because this is their analysis. Now, this is something that I need to go and teach my children, how to go and take history. And also, at the same time, when you hear something like this in the class, and you know that this is not right, stand up and speak. Stand up and say to the teacher, tell the teacher, from where you get this information? Okay, it's in the curriculum. What's the source? Isn't it when they're writing in the school, they teach the kids in the school that, okay, you have to cite resources. From where the resource? Okay, cite in your history books, okay, what's the resource? From where you get this information that Muslims have done genocides? So it goes back to the parents, what they have taught their children in terms of Islamic education, Islamic knowledge, how to take this Islamic knowledge, and then empowering them to be able to go and stand up in the class and say, okay, you know what? Islam doesn't say this. Islam doesn't say this. No, this is wrong information. Again, you say it in a good style, in a good approach. Teaching the kids from a young age to stand up in the school for Islamic ideas that are misfed in the school is very important. That's part of building their personality. But if you teach them to dodge, yalla, just don't do anything. Listen to it and forget it. Baba, don't worry about it. What are you building? You're building someone who listens and hears things wrong about Islam, and he just let it go. He lets it go. Yeah, I know it's not right, but hey, I will not try to correct others. I will not try to correct. I will not have an impact. Again, that goes back to the parents. That goes back to the parents, Muhammad. They are the ones who it's their responsibility to make sure that their children can go and withstand all kinds of winds that are outside in the society. If they don't do it, then I'm not saying this is something that's going to be, it's dangerous, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala changes situation. You might have a kid who their parents are not taking care of him from an Islamic perspective. Well, once he's in high school, he's exposed to other good Muslims, and that feeds him with information, and he starts loving Islam and starts searching for Islam and even start guiding his parents. But from a young age, it's the parents' responsibility to go and do that.
Parents' responsibility. Fine. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just trying to figure out. There's so many parents that I know who themselves are in the need of learning the Deen, and it's just that. Look, here's the thing. I was reading Hassan al-Banna the other day, and Hassan al-Banna, he said something. He was saying, and this is a question to both of you. Anybody can take it. And because the universities, let's say in Egypt at the time, universities, colleges, schools, they were so far away from Islam, and they were taking the people so far away from Islam. They realized that he had to do something in order to teach and get hold of the youth. So he says to Sayyid Sabiq, for instance, put together a book like we see Sunnah, I think it's, what is it called? The Authority of the Sunnah, or Quran and Sunnah. He puts together 5 volumes just to be able to teach the public, just the foundations of Islam. Because he knew that no one else is going to do this. Even, when we were growing up, we went through Tabligh Jama'ah, for instance. And we went through Tabligh Jama'ah, we went through different organizations, whatever it is. And a lot of this was done outside homes. How important is it that there are Islamic movements, sister? Whoever can answer that the role of movements, Islamic movements, activists working, how important is that? And how important is it for families and youth to be involved in this work so that they can be strong? Or is it not important at all? Is it just the parents?
Well, I mean, it's important, right? I mean, as Muslims, we're supposed to enjoin the good, forbid the evil. So if we see something wrong, we should say, like you said, oh, I know some parents, that they don't know this, then you'd have to talk to them. And as far as, it's very important to be, to be part of a movement, so that, we can bring about the change. The Prophet ﷺ, he didn't do it by himself, right? He cultured, the early Sahaba, and then they, despite the fact that they were living in, a pagan society, much like you said, much like we live today, everything was the opposite of what we should be doing. And from that, they were able to, with the dua and with, having that, tawakkul in Allah and all of those things, they were able to bring about a change. So you have to work together, on the same thing, in order to bring about that change. So yes, it's important for, parents and families, if the father has this understanding, of the deen, he should be teaching it to his wife. He should be teaching it to his children. He should be teaching it to his brothers, to his, his sisters, to his friends, to his neighbors, so that, we all, eventually, get on, have this kind of understanding that, hey, what are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to protect our families? Islam gave us a solution, to protect our families, and that is through, the Sharia. When the Sharia is not being implemented, we're just kind of, just drawing at straws. We don't know where to look, where to go, what to do. And so, yeah, when you're part of a movement together, you can make that, make that change, shape that opinion, to those around you, with those around you.
Go ahead, Sheikh.
Yeah, so I will add, it's when it comes to the education of children and stuff like that, it's a three responsibilities on a three levels. One is the home, which is parents. We talked about that a lot. Then second, it's the society, and then the third is the government. And the society is where الأمر معروف والنهي عن المنكر. You see people, will be walking in the streets. If you do something wrong, that's haram. People will tell you, hey, this is haram. They might give you the dalil or not give you the dalil. That's a different story. But they will tell you this is haram. Don't do it next time, and they will advise you. But with the secular mentality, well, hey, don't judge me on my actions and stuff like that.
Or even it's not my responsibility.
And it's not okay. And could people will be thinking, okay, he's doing haram. It's not my responsibility to advise him. Let the system take care of that. So again, that's part of which is the community. The community goes and teaches also. Now then, there is the government. The government with policies, education policy. So these are the three levels where for education. Now all over the world and here in the U.S., where there is deficiency in the three levels. In the family, the parents, good number of parents, they don't understand Islam well. In the community, it's a society itself is not Islamic. People will be sometimes even afraid of just telling someone to stop doing something that's haram because of the consequences. A system is pushing a secular agenda, secular ideas is not into Islam. So we the Muslims in the whole world, in a maintenance phase, trying to maintain as much Islam as there. And when we're talking about Islam, we're not talking about the correct Aqidah concepts. And here I'm talking about at large. I'm not talking about, specific individuals or specific groups. No, at large, we, the Muslims, are trying just to maintain that, hey, I want to do the halal, part of the halal, and avoid part of the haram. The things that as much as I can, and also as long as it's acceptable within the society and within my groups to avoid this or be part of it. So that's a view that's there, and we are in this maintenance right now, trying to maintain as much as we can close to Islam. We're not rushing toward Islam as a whole Muslim society. All over the world, we're not rushing to go and try to go implement Islam and live by Islam 100%. Movements, yes, movements is very important. It is very important. But if that movement objective is to melt within the society, that's the wrong movement. If that objective of the movement is to go and keep the status quo, that's the wrong movement. If that objective of the movement,
I understand, Sheikh. But see,
yes.
the good thing was when we are around, and still we are around Hizb al-Tahrir, we are around Ikhwan Muslimin, we are around Tabligh Jama'ah, we are around so many Islamic movements with different intellectual backgrounds, with different understandings, with awareness of situations. I mean, I'm not at this point, I'm not discussing the correctness of the movements. But what I'm saying is that these movements did play a role in how we grew up.
These are the movements that you and me know. In the current Western societies, there are other movements and organizations and they are actually attracting a lot of youth, but they are taking them into the wrong direction. melting in this society. The concept, who talks about the concept of, the separation between males and females when in gatherings?
No one. I mean, at this point, other than, there are, alhamdulillah, there are people who are enjoying the good and forbidding evil.
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to take one movement over the other, so I'm being very...
But there are movements who are actually here, and they're attracting a lot of youth. They're attracting a lot of youth, but they are not culturing them from the correct Islamic culture. They just want to get the youth together in a place, safe from certain ideas, but it's unsafe from other ideas.
Safe spaces.
Safe spaces, yes. Safe from one idea, but it's not safe from other ideas.
Sister Sarah, let me ask you this. There's a question here our brother put here. It says, youth are not questioning and they're not inquisitive enough because of the schooling system itself. The schooling system wants standardization. The schooling system wants to... It's a conveyor belt for producing the best capitalist possible. How do you expect them to be inquisitive or questioning? Because they have a purpose, and their purpose is to make as much money as possible and die trying.
Yeah.
So
and they
now,
don't want kids who will come and question them either. They don't want kids to come and question them when they become adults to try and, change anything. Except what they want, what the capitalists want. So of course, that's how it is in the schools. They standardize everything. They teach it from a capitalist perspective, from a secular perspective. I mean, that's why the education system is there. The government utilizes it. It's their strong arm, in order to, make the citizens, to form the citizens the way they want them to be formed.
But still, you came to Islam.
Yeah.
So how does that happen?
Yeah.
That's what I want to know. I mean, you're a parent. You came to Islam. You know kufr inside out. What pushed you to say, no, I have to question?
Well, just to make a long story short, I was involved in, movements like the feminist movement and things like this for a long time, anti-war movements, protesting, doing all of these things. And, over the years of, being involved, I kind of realized that hey, wait a minute, even though more women, for example, are getting into politics, more women are standing up, more women, quote unquote, have more freedoms, more equality, to men. I started realizing that things aren't really changing. Things are actually getting worse. Domestic violence is not going anywhere. Rape is, still rampant. All of these things, were happening. And so I started questioning the society. I started questioning, what my beliefs were. And then, from only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah, I was able to come across, at different times, ayat of the Quran, another thing that also, kind of made me is the Palestinian movement, seeing, how steadfast these Muslims were in the face of, the occupation that they were living in. This was something that made, triggered in me a thought that, what is it about their religion, that makes them like this? They weren't trying to change themselves in order to fit in, with the occupation. So, so what was it about Islam? What is it about their culture? And so that's when I started, researching Islam. And then I read the Seerah before I became a Muslim. And, when I saw this, the treatment of women, the way the society transformed, it was so amazing to me. And then I thought, this is it. And this is only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I thought this is what we need. This is what, this is what all human beings need. All humans, even though I knew not all people will become Muslim, but even reading, when you read the Seerah, you see there were Christians living, there were Jewish people living, there was, other people living there, but they were still treated, kindly. They were still treated well, and I thought, what is going on here? Even in war, the prisoners of war, they were treated well. They were not, starved and, beaten and tortured and all of those things. And I thought, why are we not living like this? Why is this being kept from us? This was the triggering point for me, is that, I started questioning the society, the way we were living. And then, alhamdulillah, I came across Islam and I came across the Seerah, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that is what, really, opened up my, opened me up to realize that there's something else that we're missing, that we're not taught, that's being kept away from us, and that's it. Because there still are people, who are, thinking like that. They're trying to figure out what is, the solution to all of these problems that we're facing, in society. And, going back to why do we homeschool? What do we teach? This is part of what we teach, our kids.
But let me ask you a question, because there's one more, there's a few more coming. But what kind of guts does it take to stand? I mean, you're coming from a white background. I mean, this is not an easy thing. Let's be honest here. And then on the top of that,
it's a bit easier for me. I will say that it's a bit easier for me because I am white. I'm not an immigrant. I'm not a person of color. So
it's easier it was easier to become Muslim?
Yeah, I mean, alhamdulillah, I came from the city. I'm from Chicago. I did.
But that, of course, that makes it, okay, I understand.
Yeah, so I mean, it makes it a bit different than, than if I grew up, in like a small town, a small rural town or something like that. But, I thought the question was going to be
I'm
something
saying,
else about.
Go ahead.
Stand. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, taking a stand. I am saying that because I'm saying as a woman, because here's the thing, because it is, taking a stand against the society. You were in university, obviously you were taking a stand, because the thing is, we're talking about our youth, we're talking about our children, and we're saying, is that missing, Dr. Ashraf? Is that, you think that's missing? The children, do they question what's happening today? Or are they, from what we went through, from what you saw in the past decades?
Yeah, when it comes to religion, questioning the school curriculum, when it comes to religion, anything, whether it's halal or haram, that stuff, it's not there. It's not there. Because, again, having the reference point of what's halal and what's haram. If you don't know what's halal and what's haram, you will not be able to go and question that. And here, when you were talking about the questioning, are we questioning the curriculum and protesting against the curriculum? Or I'm taking a stand by just saying, okay, my children will be educated either at home, or maybe I will take them to an Islamic school, or maybe I will append the public school with an Islamic school. These are certain things that you can do. But when you take your children out of the public school or even the Islamic schools and you do homeschooling, you're actually just taking a stand on your own. It's not against the system. It's just your own. Because when you take a stand against the system, you'll be looking at the curriculum itself, criticizing that curriculum from your point of view, which is, for us, it's Islam. And then you start talking about that in the public. By taking my children, I'm taking them at home, and I'm not saying that's wrong. No, maybe these days it's preferable to go and do that, given the education, the type of education that's given to young generation. I'm just protecting my family, which is my responsibility. I'm protecting. Am I changing the curriculum? No. Is the government worried that, hey, I'm just taking and protesting by taking my children from the public school to homeschooling? No, it's easier for them. It's less money that they have to go and spend in the school. Less money, less children, less teachers. It's less money from the government perspective. But now less responsibility. But at the same time, they will lose control on the students when it comes to pushing their own agenda when it comes to education. So at one point, if all families, a large number of families start pulling their children into homeschooling, you will have new legislations for homeschooling. Because as a government, as a system, you need to have a say in this.
Okay, so here's the thing. Here's another question. Of course, this is for both of you. Please, if I can get something out of the ulama, in our case, in Muslim community, they play a huge role in how they educate the community. I mean, they have the minbar in their hand, they have the masajid in their hands, and things like this. And I'm sure both of you guys read the recent paper that came out, the Nurturing Families, the whole paper that came out talking about what stand the Muslims here should take regarding LGBTQ and all of this. How do we, okay, so the paper in one way told us that, okay, look, the only way that we can handle this situation or answer or even shield our children are by compromising. Let's be compromising in a sense that you do your thing and I do my thing. Don't bother me, don't tell me what to do, and I won't tell you what to do. And then there were, of course, some scholars that came out and said, well, what do you mean? You're not going to compromise with sin. But even the scholars that they came out and you know, they criticized the scholars who are writing this paper. They, in many ways, fell short of criticizing secularism itself. They just said that, look, we are not going to accept minority, giving you know, such people minority rights and things like this. If you guys can ask, I mean, how are we supposed to look at the problem of these scholars who are literally telling us how to think? Is there a protection against that? I mean, I know it's a big...
Protection is knowledge, Muhammad. Protection comes from knowledge and understanding.
Please expand on this.
And the reality of when you talked about the ulama, you talked about the masajid. They have the minbar, they have the family, they have the community events that happen, and they speak in front of these community events that are happening. But when the center puts restrictions on the sincere and the good ulama not to speak about certain topics, because that's going to create a discussion within the community, and they don't want that discussion. I'll give you an example. Recent events here in the area, one of the good speaker, he was asked not to talk about the gender mixing in a big gathering, Muslim gathering, a huge number of youth gathering, not to talk about that. He was asked not because it's going to create a dispute within the community. Okay? So these are youth. You don't want the youth to know the Islamic rulings when it comes to intergender mixing.
You're talking about it happened in the US or UK? I know there's one that happened in the
US. In the US. And this is the scholar himself come and says, okay, this is again personal, in a personal level. This is the feedback. They don't want me to go and talk about these things. Then I'm only allowed to go and talk about things that are acceptable to the people. Things that are acceptable to the people, unfortunately, are the norm. Not what Islam says about halal and haram and what's acceptable to Islam. It's what the people have been accepted, and we've been secularized in this society. Our young generation is secularized because a large number of them, they go through public school, and the public school is not going to teach them Islam. It teaches them secularism. So when
the scholars are teaching us the same thing, Sheikh. I mean, they keep talking about the branches and never ever talk about the roots. I mean, that's why I'm giving the example of this paper that came out and became a big fuss. Everybody's making a big fuss about it. But even the ones who criticized it, they never questioned secularism itself, meaning it's secularism that's producing such scholars who are then coming and telling us this nonsense that don't be so harsh against sin, just compromise. You do your thing, we will do our thing, but you're not going to take a stand. Now, that's what I'm saying, Sheikh. I mean, if this thing continues...
Because this ulama that's been produced, they are not the shakers and the movers of the society where they can go against ideas in the society, against a system that they're seeing it's the cause of this. They are not the ones who are leading movements. They are not. Because the one who is going to criticize secularism is someone who wants to change secularism. Why do you want to criticize something where you're not interested in changing it? Why? It's just for just, just to say that, okay, he said that, he's criticizing it, mashallah. But yeah, you're criticizing it, mashallah, but you're not working to go and change it. What's the benefit of that? What are you getting out of that? At one point, you will be compromising. And that's where the ulama, the ones who understand this and understand that all of this, its root cause is the secular system that we live in. And if a change needs to happen, that whole system has to be changed. Whole system. We're not talking about changing people. It's changing a system, changing rules, changing regulations, changing how you live your life, changing the ideology that you have. That's all. We're not going and telling the American people, for example, to come and be, change or move from here. No. You accepted a system, a secular system of way of life. There is an alternative for you, which is Islam. Even you, the Muslims who are worried about their children, hey, the solution for you is in Islam. And you have to put the effort to understand what Islam is and what it says and how it addresses certain things and live by it. If not, things are going to continue the same thing. And we're talking about LGBTQ now. In the future, God knows what we're going to be talking about.
Oh,
Allah
yeah,
knows.
sure.
Allah knows what's coming next.
Sister Sarah, how do we protect our children from celebrity scholars?
Well,
because the thing is, are we protecting our children from celebrity scholars, or is it the concepts that they present? And what is the issue? Because
it's both. I mean, we shouldn't be, we should teach our kids. I mean, you don't just follow somebody because, they're popular or because they sound cool. And this is, whether it's a scholar or, a movie star, musician, whatever, this is, I think, why, and I think one of the benefits of homeschooling is that you can teach your kids, critical thinking skills, to look at these people. You can do that, of course, if your kids go to Islamic school and public school, but I know some friends always say, we don't have time to do things because there's always a rush, after school. But, when they're at home with you, you have all day, you can teach them these things. You can, you can teach them these concepts, from the young age, so that inshallah, when they get older and they hear it, they can point it out themselves. They can see that it's wrong. Like, for example, this paper, where they kept bringing up the Constitution, and then they kept, saying that, oh, we should just, compromise. Well, just let us live our way. You live this way. And like the brother said, no, eventually everybody's going to end up compromising. Like, you'll compromise on something, even the Muslims will, if you're going about this belief system. So, you could teach them that, or that, you have that type of relationship with your children that if they hear something and they don't, a concept that sounds a little off or something, they want to come to you and they want to say, hey, mom, hey, dad, can you listen to this? Can we discuss this? Is there something, this sounds wrong to me, or this sounds off to me? Does this emanate from Islam? Is this secularism? Is this, is this a liberal idea? Is this a capitalist idea? What about, so that you can kind of teach your kids, Islam has all of these systems, right? We have a social system, the system which, partly says, or that says that men and women should be segregated, that are not related. This is part of our social system, that there's an economic system. But in order for these things to be, to be implemented, it has to be implemented through, a government, through the Islamic, political system, the system of governance. So these are things, that, you can, you have to point these things out to your children. You have to also introduce them to, scholars that are, that say the haqq, whether it be, it can be, Sheikh Taqiyuddin al-Nabhani, you teach them, who is this man? What was he saying? What did he say? What was he saying that changed things? What, the same with the Ikhwan, whoever these scholars that stood up, for Islam, that said against the system, that paid with their lives, because they said it, because they said the haqq, and as parents, this is a kind of example we should lead, by for our children. Like, we shouldn't just take them out of school and isolate them from society and pretend like, nothing is going on outside. No, they have to, this is where we live. This is the type of system we live under, whether it's here or even back home. It's the same. So we have to teach them. We have to show them, like, look, we need to present this Islam, to people, to whether they're Muslim or whether they're non-Muslim, that, hey, we have an alternative here.
Sheikh,
and this is what it is.
You said that there's scholars or somebody, and you were not allowed, or whoever was corrected, the person was not allowed to speak, that there shouldn't be a free mixing taking place. Sheikh, what is the responsibility of, should the stand, what do we do in this case? Be quiet or say something, and then if you're quiet, then you're telling your children not to say anything yourself, and then, what stand are we supposed to take here?
I'm supposed to take the stand of the haqq. I will say what Islam says. I'll convey it. So Islam talks about the segregation if they're not related. That's what Islam says. Now, whether people accept it or not, I'll leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether people are going to come back to this event or not come back to this event, I'll leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because it is my responsibility. In front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I will be responsible for what I say. If I don't talk and address a certain topic that's hot in a certain area, and start coming and talking about something else that's unrelated to people's life now, I'm actually betraying the covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm betraying it. So that's an issue that we need to go on. Okay, me as a parent or a scholar, he needs to look at what issues are happening in the society, in the community, and address them according to what pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's his job. His job is to go and clear things from an Islamic perspective. Say this is halal and give the dalil and all that discussion, and this is not allowed. And as a parent or a scholar, I need to stay in this, especially because we are in damage mode. And that's what we're doing right now. So we need to stay up to with all issues that are happening in the society. Feminism, LGBTQ, all kinds of issues that are going in the society. As a parent and as a scholar, I need to stay on top of them. Because I am a parent, I am responsible. I need to tell my children. I'm not going to keep it formal, because you have some children who are not open with their parents. And if you try, as a parent, sometimes they try to go and have that relationship open, so discuss and all of that. Sometimes it doesn't happen. So if I am as a parent who is going always, up to date with what's going on in the society, and in a family gathering when we're sitting over dinner or lunch or on the weekend, or when we're driving the kids to after school activity and all of that, discuss these issues that are happening in the society. Your kids will be looking at you as someone who is relevant. He knows what's going on. He's up to date. I will listen to him. Scholar, the same thing. I need to know exactly what's going on in the society in deep details and speak the haqq. Because that's what I will be held accountable in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm not going to be held accountable how many people accepted my idea or not. I will be held accountable, did I say the haqq or not?
Inshallah. Okay, last question, sister. Last question. I know it's an hour and a half now, but last question here. Dr. Ashraf, he said something, we have to be open with our children here, and a lot of children are not open with their parents. What do we do with this? How do we deal with a situation like this? Not all children are open. Maybe, what do we do here? You're a mother. What, advice do you have for parents to be able to work with the children, especially with everything that they're dealing with today?
Oh, geez. I think that, my advice would be, just always, try to be as open with your kids as possible. Be calm with them as much as you can. Leave that, because if you have a, like a knee-jerk reaction to something that they come home with, and then they say, like, oh, my best friend became trans, and then you flip out on them, then they're not going to want to come to you for advice anymore. So you have to remain, like level-headed. You have to remain, very calm with them, have discussions with them, thorough discussions with them, explain to them, like this is, what type of society we live in versus what, this is what we believe from Islam. And this is the right way, and explain to them why this is the right way, the fundamentals of our religion, the basics, explain these things to them, so that whenever they feel something, whenever they come across something, they will come to you first. You don't want them to come to go to a teacher, or to a non-Muslim teacher, or to a random person, or worse, to go online and and try to find the answer. You want them to come to you, and that is that would be my my advice for moms, and dads too. Moms and dads also work together. Moms and dads, make sure your relationship is solid, and that the basis of your relationship is Islam, and then inshallah, the kids will be open with you.
Dr. Ashraf, same thing. How important is it for parents to learn the deen? I mean, final 1 minute, 30 seconds, let's say even. How important is it for parents, especially in this chaos we're living in, to understand Islam clearly and not worry about celebrity scholars or social media, this and that? How important is it for them to really go and dig and learn their deen so that they don't lose their generations to come?
It's very important. As parents, they live issues with their children. They see issues in their children. They see issues in their community, and they see the current solutions that are offered by whether it's the community or some of the scholars. They are not working, and they're not working with even outside Muslims who are outside your home, the family, friends, and stuff like that. You will see these issues. And if you're not addressing it from an Islamic perspective, and you don't go and look for a solution from Islam, how to go and solve it from an Islam, you will be just repeating what others are doing, and which is failing. We need to live with our children in a normal life. Normal life. This is very important. My children come home after school. Hey, how it's doing? How was the school? What did you learn? Stuff like that. We need to know that our children will do mistakes. They will do mistakes. The same way that we did mistakes, the same way that we're doing mistakes. They will do mistakes. I need to know how to handle these mistakes so I don't build a huge barrier between me and them. I need to have the good knowledge, Islamic knowledge, how to go and deal with it. The good style, how to have them, with this, unfortunately, with what's going on in the secular society and the me and myself, which is they build in the young generation. Individualism. I need to have them love to come and communicate with me as a father and a mother. Looking at me as someone who is not just a father and a mother, but also a friend who cares about them. This is very important. And if we look at the Sahaba, the lives of the Sahaba, the Prophet ﷺ, this is what they're doing. They were very close to their children. Correcting the ideas.
They're close. But see, look, there's a problem with the parents nowadays. A lot of the parents are becoming friends, and then they're not parents. This is a bigger problem that we're facing. This idea, because we're teaching children on a daily basis. I mean, it's crazy how scared parents are from their own children.
There are some parents who will say, okay, I will teach my children, I will have my children learn Islam if they want when they grow up. I'll leave it to them. Okay, what kind of responsibility is this? Are you just responsible as a parent to go just to bring food on the table, work and bring food on the table, and have them wear Nike and all that dress and all that, and this is your responsibility? What's going to fill this one here? It will be filled by school or Google or Instagram or whatever. This is what's going to fill the mind. If you are a father, you're not, as a parent, if you're not filling that, it will be filled by somewhere else. By somewhere else. So it's very important to have that. Otherwise, it will be
We are
tough.
seeing what we're saying.
Yes.
Jazakumullahu khairan. Jazakumullahu khairan, both to Sister Sarah and also Dr. Ashraf. Jazakumullahu khairan for your time, for your efforts. Wallahi, these discussions need to happen, and they need to happen not only online, but also we need to create, inshallah, events, ways to have this discussion with the parents, because the parents are struggling. There's a lot of sincere parents out there who are looking at their children and saying, man, either they're saying, where did we go wrong, or what do we need to fix? We still have time. Some don't have any more time. I mean, it's unbelievable when we are seeing what is happening to the youth in general, or to the coming generation. Subhanallah. So with that, inshallah, brothers and sisters, we are going to end this program, but with the ayah of the Quran that puts such a responsibility upon us. Allah Azza wa Jal, He said, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا وقودها الناس والحجارة. This is a responsibility, dear brothers and sisters, a responsibility and amanah that have been given to us, our children, that will pass on, that will be the reason for your Jannah or your Nar. And this is the investment that is going to protect, save, preserve, raise your status in this dunya and the akhirah. We lose them, we have nothing to stand on. We lose our children, we lose our deen. And what I mean by this is not that they're successful financially, that they can make money or they have skills that can make millions of dollars for them. Rather, defining the definition of success. What is success? What is it that you will be considered as successful? And that we have to bring them from the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And with that, Jazakumullahu khairan. We'll see you next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
لا لن يطول الظلام ديننا لن يضام نحن جيل الهمام نحن فينا عمر لا 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 لن يطول الظلام ديننا لن يضام نحن جيل الهمام نحن فينا عمر صبح بدا نور ظهر نجم وشمس وقمر ألقى على الدنيا الدرر هذا عمر هذا عمر كل البرايا تنتظر أيامه البيض الغرر كي تستفيد من العبر هذا عمر هذا عمر لا لن تدوم الجراح بل سيأتي الصباح نحن أهل الكفاح نحن فينا عمر لا لا لن تدوم الجراح بل سيأتي الصباح نحن أهل الكفاح نحن فينا عمر